Native people use laughter as a form of medicine. Native people
Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our third day of our health promotion and disease prevention track. In this session, we will be presenting Shinnecock showcases highlights on their GWIC 1903 project from our presenter, Jason Hensana Cofield. Jason Hensana Cofield is an enrolled member of the Shinnecock Indian Nation, where he resides. He is a husband, father of 4, and grandfather of 4. He has worked for the Shinnecock Nation over the last 4 years as the coordinator of good health and wellness in Indian Country and the coordinator for the Diabetes Prevention Recognition Program. In 2021, Mr. Hensana Cofield received the Local Impact Award from the National Indian Health Board for his work during the COVID-19 pandemic. Mr. Hensana Cofield has worked in the fitness industry for over 30 years. Jason has been featured in various multimedia outlets, including Channel 12 News, Long Island, 2020 on the ABC Network, Self Magazine, Hamptons Magazine, Southampton Press, as well as dozens of other publications and speaking engagements. He is a respected fitness professional, author, former fitness center owner, and creator of both Evo Fit Method and the Mama Wanini Challenge workout. Jason currently serves the Shinnecock Nation as Executive Director of Tribal Operations. So now I will turn it over to Jason. Thank you.
Okay. I just want to say good morning to everyone with Kwasan in our language. An Kawantuwan Inuwaspam, Jason Cofield, Natusawis, Tanupis, Nucha Shiawank, Shinnecock, Ta Montaukett, Ta Mui, Nuchapiawank, Shinnecock Territory, Natap. So what I said to you in our language is that my name is Ankuwana Inuwaspam, which is in our language, it kind of translates out to wild beast. My Christian name is Jason Cofield. I'm in the Turtle Clan. I am Shinnecock. I am Montaukett, and my father is of African American descent. And I live on the Shinnecock territory. So I want to welcome you guys today, and I want to share a little bit about our community with you. A lot of people are not familiar with our tribe. We're a really small tribe. We've been at about just under 2,000 members since the beginning of time. We're one of the most documented tribes in the United States of America, in the world, period. When the settlers got here, they kept numbers on us because they're trying to get rid of us, right? So if they can keep the numbers on us and track us, they know exactly who's who, so they can eventually get rid of us. And this little clip that you guys are going to see is going to explain that a little bit. So Alexis, if it's ready, we can go ahead. I think it looks like it's loading.
Native people use laughter as a form of medicine. And that's something that has kept us going through the years. Because if you don't laugh when things are hard, then you're not going to pull through. Akwe Diashwa Natusawis. My name is Diashwa Sylvester. I am the director of the Boys and Girls Club of the Shinnecock Nation, and we are at our clubhouse.
Hello, my friends. My name is Standing Buffalo. I'm of the Buffalo Clan, and I'm a Medewa Metawak man from Shinnecock. My given name is Shane Weeks, and I am currently a board member of the Boys and Girls Club of Shinnecock. I would hope that through this time here at the Boys and Girls Club, it creates a healthy foundation for our children to be proud of who they are, to want to contribute to our community. We say that we want to preserve and perpetuate, at least for the next 7 generations, who we are as an Indigenous community.
So the mission of the Boys and Girls Club is to inspire and enable all young people, especially those who need us most, to reach their full potential as caring, productive, and responsible citizens. The Boys and Girls Clubs of America Native Services team supports over 200 Native clubs across the nation, and we serve over 120,000 Native youth every year. Red Nose Day funding helps Native clubs by really giving that support to give all the opportunities and hope to our Native youth that come through our doors every day.
We have everything from financial courses, self-care classes, sports events, drug and alcohol prevention. We have Family Fun Days, which is an intergenerational event where everybody comes out and we just have fun.
It's been really fun because I don't really have siblings my age at home, so I get to play with people that are my age, and also you get to learn a lot and get to enjoy your culture.
I'm proud because I like to dance, I like to drum, I like to sing, I like to do all of that. It makes me feel good about myself. It makes me feel that I'm really a part of this culture, and I'm really a part of this nation.
The Boys and Girls Club of Shinnecock to me it's like a fun activity where you learn new things, have fun, meet new people.
Favorite thing that we learned here is stories about where we came from to help rebuild what we had.
To have language classes, to buy materials for regalia making, to bring in professionals to talk to our kids about mental health and mental illness. A lot of that is to revive our culture. And it's our duty, it's our responsibility to teach our children who they are as Shinnecock people. Over in that area is actually where our ancestors met the first settlers back in the 1640s.
One thing you have to know about the Shinnecock people is that we are the first contact people. We were the first ones to be used and abused. We were the first ones to be assimilated. As a result of that, some of my tribal family looks different than what you may think a textbook Indian looks like. But culturally, who we are Shinnecock people. We're still here. We will always be here.
We still have this territory that we call West Woods now that we still own. And then as far as the neck over there, which is now, in Southampton area, all of this was once ours, but people don't want to acknowledge that. Oh, no, it's too late, yeah, it may have been stolen, but that was so long ago, just forget about it, but it's like, that was our way of life. We were so connected to the land. That's what defines who we are as a people.
Our land was stolen through a series of very unfortunate events. One issue was that at contact, our people did not understand the concept of ownership of land. It was there for everybody. And even still today on this territory here, we don't own it individually, we all own it collectively.
When I see this spot in particular, I always think of my ancestors because it's like, wow, look at how beautiful this place is. And this is about as close as it gets to how it used to look like because this is untouched land. So this is where we're most connected to our ancestors, and this was why it's so important for us to have our ceremonies here. And that irritates a lot of people. It's like, well, just go away. And that's why I put that poem on the wall of the Boys and Girls Club, because I'm like, it's so important because that's really how people think. Why are you not dead? It says in the poem. Why are you still here? You're annoying to us, It's like, no, we're still here because we're tied to our ancestors. We have the thread of our ancestors running through us. Our blood is connected to their blood. That's why we're so strong, and I truly believe that our ancestors are always with us. That's where I get my strength from, you know, the Creator, and knowing that I have all of my ancestors behind me. You know, that's why I don't ever want to give up when it comes to Shinnecock. Someone has to find that light somewhere. Find that light, because as long as that light is still shining, it'll get bigger and bigger over time. You just have to feed it. And that's why I'm so happy. I'm so glad that I'm able to be the one to help focus on our youth. Because I truly believe that our healing is going to come from our youth, 100%. People are like, well, they're just kids, they're our future. No, they're our now. And they need to be nurtured and cared for and told about who they are. Because eventually our kids are going to be the ones that lead the way and reach back and help our elders heal.
I was raised and born here, and it's just been beautiful. I mean, as a child, we had free reign of the reservation.
As a child growing up, Shinnecock is a beautiful place. I love Shinnecock. I'd rather be no other place. But we also face challenges. And growing up, I faced tremendous challenges. One of the most important values, I think, that we have here as a people is that of helping one another, sharing and caring. It's been ingrained in our culture for thousands of years.
I learned about Red Nose Day with the Boys and Girls Club, right? And so I got super excited really fast because I know that Red Nose Day really speaks to our mission, right? It speaks to who we are, and a lot of the values that you hold are some of the same that we have too. And so when we found out about it and started working with Red Nose Day as Native Services, we were so excited for the partnership and being able to work with you all. There's so much pride. I see it in Walgreens, I see it everywhere in these communities.
I would say, you know, that laughter is the strongest medicine that we have, because not only does it just make everybody feel good, it's good for your body too. So to laugh is healthy.
I think it's an amazing, amazing campaign, and I think it's beautiful that you guys are really taking comedy and you're using that as an avenue to promote change within the world, and I think that's beautiful.
All right, thank you. So I almost get teared up every time I watch it. I just think it's so beautiful personally. Does anybody have any questions about anything you saw in the film or anything you want me to touch on?
The project came to be as a result from the devastation from Hurricane Sandy of 2012. The East Coast received heavy damage from
Oh, excellent, excellent, excellent. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and start with the presentation. So in the last 4 years, I was hired on in the tribe, at my tribe, for the coordinator for good health and wellness in Indian country. And that job was made for me. I just really connected with it right away. Our program was in a little bit of trouble. I was asked to come in and see if we could kind of turn it around a little bit. And I think the biggest thing that I got out of this was the support that I got from USET and all of the other partner tribes. I learned a lot right away, connected with this community so much, and we got a lot that we've accomplished. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is just my introduction page here. Akwe Nitompak, which is just hello friends. Jason Cofield, Executive Director of Tribal Operations. I'm a culture bearer, language bearer, seed keeper, storyteller. And the biggest one I'm proud of is at the bottom right there. I'm a grandfather. I have 4 grandkids that I just absolutely adore. I didn't even know there was more love than the love I have for my wife, right? Then I have my kids and I'm like, oh man, that's a whole nother level. And then I have my grandkids and that's like to the moon. So I just love being a grandfather. One of the things that I get from my culture is that when I was a kid, I had 15 grandmothers because everybody's grandmother was your grandmother. And so now I find myself in that position as a grandfather, and I really treat the community the same way. As you can see in that clip, I was teaching language to our children. I specifically targeted like 8 to 18 years old. And I think what I like about that the most is that 8-year-olds are very impressionable, and our 18-year-olds need to understand the responsibilities that they have, right? As these older teenagers, they have to realize that those little ones are watching everything they do. I could teach them whatever I want, but I'm not a cool guy anymore. I'm just grandpa, right? But those 18-year-olds are the cool guys. And I constantly have to have conversations with them that, listen, even when you think no one's watching you, those little eyes are always watching you. So it's something I really enjoy. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So I'm going to do an overview. At Shinnecock, what we concentrated on was prevention of obesity, prevent and control commercial tobacco use, type 2 diabetes prevention, and heart disease and stroke prevention. So we'll go to the next slide. So this is just some of the things that we go over. There was so much for me to pack in here. I just kind of picked a few. We really did find a way to pack a lot of things in. One of the things that I learned is that in my community, you'll get feedback immediately. So you got to throw 1,000 things out there to see what they actually want to participate in. And then those are the things you focus on. So we have group fitness, which was very, very popular. As you can see in those group fitness pictures, and I think I have some more coming up. It's kind of hard to see from where you guys are sitting at, but a lot of those classes are multi-generational. So we'll have grandparents, kids, and grandkids that are all taking a class, which I thought was awesome. Our traditional dance classes. One of the things that happened during COVID with a very social society that we have, we do everything together. So with COVID separating us out, keeping everyone in their own houses, in our own territory, own property, it was really hard. Like for us, we were scared to go out. We were watching what was happening in Dene country, where people were passing out left and right and passing away. And we were thinking, man, we're such a small community that we can't afford for one person to get sick, because one person getting sick could possibly turn into 10 people, could turn into 30 people, could turn into 50 people. It would wipe us out. So we really, really, really kept our distance. I think in a part of that, we lost a piece of who we were, right? So we're really fighting back, pulling ourselves together again, which I'm really seeing now. I'm so glad that we have the Boys and Girls Club right now, because a lot of that brings us back together, brings our kids together. It brings our elders in with our kids to teach them things. And it's just the way that I grew up, and I'm glad to see it happening again. We concentrated on gardening. We have a community garden and a farm. Those are run by our environmental department. So I kind of let them do their thing. We supported them. We support them tremendously. But what we did was we concentrated on individuals that want to have their own gardens at home. So that's part of what we did. Seed saving, something that I do, something that we pass on. Traditional foods and medicine, we'll go over some of that in here. And then breastfeeding education was a large part of what we did as well. And it was interesting to me to find that a lot of our young mothers were not breastfeeding when I came into the position. And it was kind of awkward at first for them to talk to a male about breastfeeding. Like, what are you talking about? You're a guy. What do you know about breastfeeding? But science has shown, and reports have shown, and that if a female who is breastfeeding has support from a male individual, they'll actually breastfeed a little longer, or maybe possibly be a little more successful. And it doesn't have to be their significant other. It could be a brother, it could be a coworker, it could be a father, grandfather, it could be that one male individual that encourages them to do that, so that they don't feel uncomfortable, so that they feel like they're doing the right thing. And so we're finding that it's very helpful. We currently have breastfeeding classes that we have going on, and we have a PhD male that's actually teaching. We have doulas that we have on our territory, and they're getting certified in lactation specialists. So that's something that's really big. We had the formula situation that happened, and then everyone realized how important it is. And I mean, at the end of the day, you know, we talk about traditional foods. The first food is breast milk. So we're, again, reteaching those things back into our community. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So this is some of the group fitness things that we did. And as I look at this, I can see that some of them were left off, but I'll go over some of it right now. So we'll start over by the yoga classes. So we started our yoga classes and we started in-house. We have our elder center where we would go, and initially we had chair yoga for our elders. We then from there went into actual mat yoga classes that you kind of see on the bottom. Those mat classes were really good. Our instructor is amazing. She makes everyone feel like you're the only one in the class. Then COVID hit. COVID hit pretty hard, and we were like, okay, what do we do? How do we keep this going? So we switched over to Zoom yoga classes. And then so you could kind of link in through your home and connect into the class. And what we found was we were all separated out, and we would all sit in there. We do our hour of Zoom class, and then we would talk for 10 or 15 minutes after the class, because it was a way for us to kind of be together again, which was really good. And then if you look at the bottom picture there, we have a preschool on territory. It goes from birth to 4 years old. And then after that, they move on to kindergarten. And so she's doing some infant yoga there, which is pretty cool. So then we have our group fitness classes, or our fitness classes. So we have the Mama Winene class. And again, you can see it's kind of multi-generational there. We have our Mama Winene cycle. Mama Winene in our language means we move together. And so we have our cycling class, and there's a picture of some people cycling. We have our Mama Winene paddle class. So what was interesting to me, our territory, we're on a very small territory. And you hear me saying territory as opposed to reservation. You will hear some of us say reservation, but we actually don't live on a reservation. We actually live on Indian territory. We are one of a handful of tribes that we are on our ancestral territory. We've never given up our sovereignty. And so we've never given our land to the United States government in trust for them to give back to us and say that it's ours. Ours is ours. We've always owned it. It's gotten smaller. We're down to about 1,000 acres. We've been suing for about 3,000 acres back since before I was alive. I don't know if we'll ever get that back, but we constantly keep that fight alive. We have an additional area, about another 100 acres. It's about 6 miles from us. We have another additional area, which is about just under 10 acres, which isn't too far from us as well. And we maintain those pieces of land, and we're constantly fighting to make sure they don't try to take any more from us. So I said all that to say this. I grew up, we're surrounded by water on 3 sides, and then we have our inland community. I grew up on the water. This picture of the water here where you see the kayaks, that's in my backyard, not this particular spot, but I'm down the road a little further. And so for me, this is how I grew up, knowing that my ancestors are whalers, knowing that most of the food that I ate growing up as a kid came out of that water right there. I'm so connected to that water. I didn't realize that some of our other tribal members who don't necessarily live specifically on the water like I did, didn't have the same connection. So when we started our paddle classes, it was amazing. We got a lot of turnout because we had individuals that were like 50 years old that were like, oh, I've never been in a canoe or a mashoon, as we would say. And I'm like blown away. I was like, what? That's who we are. What do you mean you've never been out? So it's awesome to kind of bring that back into our community and see that, or to the ones that weren't exposed to it. And then you also have, like we have in every territory, you have those individuals that maybe didn't grow up on territory, and now they're a little older and they come back home. And so now that they're here and they really want more and more of the culture. So that's been very successful for us. We have our powwow fitness classes you see up there at the top. And those were very successful as well. For me as a kid, we didn't have powwow classes like this. So I wasn't sure if how this was going to go. And it went really good. When I was a kid, this is our community center. When I was a kid, our young men, the young blood singers, would go into the community center. Doors would be open, they start drumming. And me as a 10-year-old kid, we would hightail it over to the community center, and we'd either jump on the drum or we'd start dancing. And all of us, all the kids. And so that, again, was a piece that was missing, that these kids that we have today didn't necessarily go through that. So we're trying to bring back all the things that we did in our childhood. And so we started with this powwow fitness class, and it was very, very successful. Down under that, you see our youth beginner language classes. And so our language is in the revitalization process right now. The beautiful thing about our language is that there are many language speakers in our sister tribes. And so, as I said, with us being First Contact, that's one of the first things they did to us. I go to conferences and I listen to people who have been, we have a survivor here that we have at this conference today. That's a survivor of the boarding schools. And she actually volunteered to go to the boarding school, which it blew me away, but I understand why when she explained herself. So a lot of people don't realize that, we were the first ones to be put into these boarding schools. So my community, it goes back hundreds of years. It doesn't go back 100 years, 50 years, 20 years. It goes back hundreds of years. So I'm just really blessed to help bring our language back. And what I do is I concentrate on our kids, like I said, 8 to 18. Our language right now, our infants that you see over there in our preschool are immersed. So they get the language from birth until they're 4 years old. And then after that, they go out into the public school system and there is no language. So we've been able to get our language into Santa Mauritius High School, which is about 26 miles from us. One of our sister tribes is in that area, and they've petitioned and petitioned and petitioned to get the language into their school, and they got it, and it's awesome. In our little area that we live at, we're in the middle. You have Shinnecock in the middle. 26 miles to the east, you have the Unkachog Nation. 26 miles to the west, you have, or opposite, 26 miles to the west, you have Unkachog. 26 miles to the east, you have Montauk, which I'm part of both Montauk and Shinnecock. Now, of those three tribes, and as close as we are, we actually speak 3 different dialects of the same language. So it's interesting for myself. I can kind of go back and forth in the 3 languages. Not everyone can. So when I'm teaching our kids, I make sure to let them know what our sister tribes would say for a particular word, or how they would pronounce it, or what the differences would be in that. So it's pretty cool. As you can see at the bottom here in this bottom picture, it's kind of hard to tell, but that's kind of a multi-generational class, because what's happened is grandparents have come by to drop their kids off, and then they stay because they didn't have the opportunity to get the language coming up. I've only been in our language for about 5 years. And we have a handful that are maybe a decade or more in. The beautiful thing is we have our sister tribes, the Benaki, Mashpee, other tribes that are a little ahead of us in the language that help tremendously. And for us, one of the beautiful things is that we all speak that same language. And although the dialects are a little bit different, it's so minimal that I pick up on all of them. So for me personally, I study all 3 of them. So we'll go ahead and skip to the next slide. So this is traditional dance. And so I'll go through some of these pictures with you. So some of them are old pictures that really don't apply to the classes, but I want to kind of give you an idea of, for anyone who's non-native in here, where we start and how we start. So we started our traditional dance powwow fitness classes, and it went great. And then boom, COVID hits, and it's like, oh man, what do we do? So we started to do it through Zoom, and that worked a little bit, but people weren't really showing up, didn't want to jump around their living room. So then we were like, okay, let's just do videos. So we have the Mama Winene news page, and it's on Facebook. And what we do is we post videos there. I didn't put any of that here, but that's what we started doing. But I want to show you guys some of the things we do. So I have my family in this, well, everybody in this picture is my family, but my daughter over here, she's 21 now, but that's her starting out. I don't know, she's probably like 5 in that picture. She looked like this the first time she danced. This is my granddaughter, one of my granddaughters, and that's my son. And so that's when we take them out. They go out. My daughter's first powwow, I think she was 9 months old. We have the largest powwow. Well, we had the largest powwow on the East Coast. And then this thing, Skimitzen, came, and they offer so much money for their dancers that it's like, that's the largest powwow on the East Coast. But traditionally, we have the largest powwow on the East Coast. We have tribes that represent over 400 tribes come out to our community for that powwow. It's amazing. It's like a huge family reunion for us. Powwow is important to us because it was taken away from us, right? So as I was telling you about hundreds of years ago, when we were going through this assimilation that they were trying to do, it was illegal for us to practice powwow. They thought that we were devil worshiping. They didn't understand that song and dance is part of the way that we speak to our creator. Powwow is actually a word from our language. It's used all over Indian country. It comes from our language. Yeah, just really important. So the picture you see with me bending down, that's one of my great nephews, and that's his first powwow. And I'm not sure, he might have been like 18 months or so old. And we threw a little bustle on him and put him in some buckskins and threw him out there, and he absolutely loved it. So I'm going to come fast forward into good health and wellness. What did we do? So what we did was we said, okay, I want to actually take the kids out to powwows, because I grew up as a kid. My grandparents would throw us in the car, and we had to go with them, because in my day, there wasn't all this money that you have now with powwows. What they would do is, if you were a vendor, you also had to provide entertainment. So the kids, anybody, it didn't matter who it was. So usually what would happen, like in our family, my grandparents would take a bunch of kids, throw us in the car, pack everything around us. We drive all over the country, and they would provide a dance, or it'd be us kids. So my first experience at a powwow was my grandmother slapping some clothes on me, throwing me out on stage, and you just did your thing. And I love that. And so what we did was we were like, okay, how do we bring that back to our kids? Not every child, not every household is as culturally connected as the other. So I said, let's go out to the Veterans Powwow out at Pequot. And so this was a trip that we've done out to Pequot. And so what we did was we took a bus of 59 tribal members, and we went up to Pequot, Foxwoods. And so those are these pictures here. This is a Veterans Powwow. So I'm up here, I'm a veteran, United States Air Force. I got out. I didn't plan to dance that day. I just planned to be there and make sure that the kids were having that experience. This is one of my cousins up here dancing, all cousins, all family. And what happened was, out of, I think there were 6 dance categories, because it was a small powwow, we won 4 of the categories. So these are our 4 winners here from our tribe. So it felt good to not only take our tribal members out to this powwow. We rented a huge bus, luxury bus, got to the powwow, beautiful venue. If you guys ever have an opportunity to go out to Mashantucket Pequot and see their museum, it is absolutely beautiful. And we had a great powwow, and then we came home that night. It's one of our sister tribes. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. So another thing that we concentrate on is gardening. So what we did is, like I had said before, that top middle picture is our community garden. And so I work with a lot of collaborations, and I'm going to go through that towards the end. A lot of collaborations. Collaboration is everything. So all those plants you see there, seedlings, are from Stony Brook University. They have a rooftop garden. And I connected with them and I say, if you guys are throwing plants out at the end of the season, or, once your planting is set, because I know they plant a lot of stuff because you're not sure what's going to take and not. Each season is a little different. I said, if you guys have leftovers, can you donate them to our community and we can hand them out? And so they do that. We've been doing that for about 4 years now. And so here's some of the things that we grow. These are from some of the gardens. And as you can see, we have some mint and some thyme, parsley, onions, green onions. There's some cabbage down there, acorn squash, peppers, beans, tomatoes, corn, cucumbers. Honestly, you name it. And we've had it. We've probably given out about, I tried to do the math on it, and it's somewhere between 2,400 and 3,000 seedlings each year. So we've done that for the last 4 years. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Traditional foods and medicine. So we're water people, and I could have put 1,000 pictures in here. I have 1,000 pictures to put in here, but honestly, I was pulling pictures and putting them in. And so some of these, it's good to show in season and out of season, right? For our people to know what they are. So up in that top corner there, that's a grape leaf. We have a lot of Concord grapes in our area. And so this is out of season, and you can see the grape. You have clamshell on the bottom. That's everything to us. That little shell right there represents so much in our community. We eat it, we pray with it, we wear it. It's wampum. I wear wampum every day. These are my wampum necklaces. And I wear these for me. They're usually tucked in. I do wear them out sometimes, but they're usually tucked in. If somebody wears something out, that's for me to show you, right? That's where you look what I got. But for me, part of our creation story has to do with wampum. So as a creator was making man, it was very, very volatile energy. So he was like, oh man, what do I do to kind of quell this a little bit? So the creator picked up a clamshell, blew through the clamshell, and man was created. The clamshell was bruised. As it was bruised, it created that purple that you see. That's the bruising, right? So that purple we call suki in our language, and the white is wampio. So it's said that when a Shinnecock wears wampum, they feel complete. And I know that I do. So I wear it every single day. I don't sleep in it. First thing I do when I wake up, before I even brush my teeth, I put my wampum on, go brush my teeth, start my day. It's a huge part of who we are. So up top, you have a crab shell. Then you have scallops, conch shell, mussels. And then over here, we have mullen. And so I took these pictures on this particular day because it really caught my eye and it really stood out for me, especially during COVID. Mullen is really good for congestion. Mullen can be smoked. Mullen can be dried. You can drink it as a tea. And we refer to mullen as a female. We talk to her in a female tense. And we say that, once you find her, look around because she may not be there again in the following year. She likes to move around. And that's because these are the seed pods up at the top. And each one of those little pods, they're about the size of a pea. And inside that pea is like 1,000 seeds. And so when the wind blows, it'll blow those seeds, it could blow them a mile away, it could blow them 10 feet away, wherever. So that plant constantly moves. It'll usually sprout in the same spot twice. And then after that, it won't be there anymore. So it has these luscious leaves on it. These particular pictures were taken in our cemetery. And so for me, culturally, I didn't grow up with being afraid of cemeteries and the boogeyman and ghosts and all that, because that's where our ancestors are. is a sacred place to us. It is a place where I feel love. I talk out loud like I'm talking to you guys now when I'm around my ancestors, when I go around our cemetery. And so it's always been a place that has brought me power, energy, and medicine. And so for me to see these other medicines that are there, it was very powerful for me. So I took these pictures. One of the things that we do, and you'll see that in some of the other slides, is we do nature walks with our community and off our community. I could probably do it out. My wife and I, as we were walking around, I'm not kidding, we're looking at certain things in the grass, planter boxes, and we're like, oh, that's medicine. That's this, that's this. We point a lot of that stuff out. So we can go ahead and go to the next slide. Breastfeeding education. So we have the Mama Winene news page. And so these are some of the flyers that we post. And we connect with our outside community. There's the Baby Cafe. And the Baby Cafe works in all of the different neighborhoods that we have in our area. So we have African-American neighborhoods, we have a Hispanic community, Latinx, we have Caucasian community, we have everything. So they have these posters that are kind of catered to each one. We also have our own doulas on Shinnecock, and they're really, when I stepped out of the position, I really gave a lot of the resources to them to kind of carry forward, because I wasn't sure how long it would take to replace my position. And they have done a tremendous job. They've raised a tremendous amount of money for formula. They've gotten a tremendous amount of formula. We have some resources. We're here. We have Be Free, which is Be Free is from one of our local hospitals, and it is their breastfeeding education piece with the hospital. So we connect with them. This is a local, this chocolate milk. So in the town of Southampton, which is just outside of our territory, there's an African-American group that has put this program together. So we connect with all of them. We share resources. And so that's the main thing we do. So we do hold classes now. We've been having them every Saturday for about the last 3 weeks. And I think they're going to go another 3 weeks. And then we're going to look at it again, reevaluate, and kind of see where we are. My mom works in our community health worker program. And so I always know when we have babies coming, because my mom was like, I got another baby. There's another baby coming. So we know. And then we're like, okay, so we got X amount of babies. We have new moms. But we found with the breastfeeding education, especially with the formula scenario, we had moms that had a child or multiple children that had never breastfed that wanted to breastfeed. So I just think it was a positive. I think it's really great. So we'll go ahead and move on to the next slide. Prevention and control of commercial tobacco use. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. It's going to be a short one. So Stony Brook Southampton Hospital is about 6 miles from us down the road. And they have this program that they have here. And then this sign here is a sign I made in my first year when I started working for the tribe. Whew. Remember I told you guys we get a lot of feedback. The feedback is quick. Like you don't have to wait for feedback. So we've never had any no smoking signs, right? And so what I did was I made the no smoking signs. I got our trustees to sign off on them. And these signs, I made enough signs for every tribal building, every entrance. And these signs have not gone up yet. We have them. They haven't gone up because when they initially started putting them up, people were fighting. They were like, we need to have a tribal meeting. We need to discuss 25 feet. That's ridiculous. And so, you know, some people were like, it should be 50 feet. Some people were like, it should be like 10 feet outside the door, step away from the door, whatever way. It was just a lot. It was a lot of pushback on that. So what we did, and I don't have any of the pictures up here, but what we did was we were like, you know what, not only will we do the smoke cessation and the commercial tobacco use, let's actually explain what tobacco is used for in our community, right? Our ancestral uses for tobacco. There's over 400 different things that we use tobacco for, and like 1% is smoking, right? So to get our people to understand when we're, I don't know, praying, when we're harvesting our crops and we put tobacco down, when we're planting our seeds and we put tobacco down, when we are, there's 1,000 different things that we could do. So we started in our Mama Winene news page. What we would do is we would put different examples of how tobacco was used. different examples of what tobacco is, right? So for us, tobacco is more than just tobacco, traditional tobacco that you know. It's also sage. It's also flat cedar in our area, which is really important. Sweetgrass. For us, there's probably about 15 sacred tobaccos that we have. So we'll go ahead and switch to the next slide. Type 2 diabetes prevention. This was a tough one. This was a tough one to get off the ground. I left SAL certification. The problem we were running into was, for us, we didn't do it in the first year. We started in the second year. Well, we did in the first year, but then we were intending to kick it up in year two. Year two, COVID hits hard. No one's getting together. How do I get this information out? So what I did was I went to our Mama We Nene news page, and on that page, what I did was I pulled off some things. And so what we did was we took our textbook that we have, that we would actually be teaching out of to do our cohorts with, and I would post a page a week. And that page a week would go up, and people could then read it. It was open to the entire community, but it was actually open to the world, right? The internet is open to everybody. So what helped with this was that we had tribal members that weren't home that were able to go on that page and to actually try to, work on their diabetes, or felt like they had an avenue. And then they could always ask me questions, and they would ask questions. Sometimes they would type them into the search, or they would contact me directly. And so we had these progress reports that we put out, and we posted them so that they'd be able to pull them down. And we were able to, the issue that I ran into was two things. With our IHS, we don't have a clinic associated with the IHS. We have IHS services that really kind of works for us as an insurance, which is very helpful, and I appreciate it. We're in the process of trying to build out a clinic now. We do have a health clinic. But that health clinic is run through our local hospital on our territory, separate from IHS. And so part of that is trying to get the data for our diabetes prevention piece. Like, how do I connect with you to get the data? So I finally worked it through with the hospital administration of how we would get that data and what it would be is, or how we would get our cohorts built. And so what we had worked out was we had our, for lack of a better word, advertisement or referral. And if someone had their blood work done and we could see that they were in that pre-diabetes phase, they could then refer them to us. But the problem with that was when COVID hit, no one was able to be seen in our clinic. Everyone had to go to the main hospital, and our main clinic really was like for absolute emergencies. And it really wasn't even that at that point. It really was just COVID testing. And that was it. And that was for like a good year and a half. We're finally kind of coming out of it, but they've been in that stage for so long. And we're so close to New York City. We're about 100 miles away from New York City. And so we're constantly tracking. Are the numbers going up? Are they coming down? Like, we have to watch them, and it really affects us where we are. Because again, like I said, we don't want this disease to go flying through our community. So we could go ahead and go to the next slide. Support for heart disease and stroke prevention. This is a good one. So what I like about this is all the things that we do work in that capacity. So as you can see over here, we have our youth out on the basketball court, and they're out there doing a yoga class. We have our cycling. We have our healthy eating, right? Grow your own food. We have so this is another picture. I love it. So this is at the preschool. This is where our little ones, these guys are probably about 2 years old. They love it. Our group fitness classes, our traditional dance, which is a traditional activity. We had our equestrian. How do you say that word? Equestrian healing there with our horses. And then this picture here is from our powwow. So every powwow week we have machine races, and anyone can go out and race. We open it up to the community, and we had a couple of heats that particular year. It's really fun. And it's just our way of not only getting us back out on the water, but our sister tribes and any tribe that comes out that wants to participate. If you want to get up at 7 o'clock in the morning, come off of the powwow grounds and come over to the beach. We'll take you out on the water. So all of these things are the things that we use, right, in this lifestyle medicine that we're promoting with good health and wellness in Indian country. So we'll go ahead and go to the next slide. Collaborations, really, 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 really important. The biggest thing for me in collaborations is constantly educating our neighbors. That's at the state level, federal level, village level, county level, town level, constantly. So the picture you see up on the top there, those are students from these top two pictures are students from Columbia University. And they came out for the day. And when I met with them, I had one of the staff said, we have about 4 kids that are indigenous. I was like, oh, that's cool. So when we were at Westwoods, this particular area, I said, I understand there's some indigenous kids in the class. And if you guys have any particular questions, questions are open to everybody. But if you guys have any questions, I'd like to field some questions from you. So this is all of the indigenous kids that they had in that class. I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So they all came over. We took a picture. These kids are so bright. I gave them a history of Shinnecock. I gave them a history of the area. What you can't see in this picture is that there's water. We're on top of a hill. You go down this hill and there's water, and you see how they're dressed. And one of the kids said, can we go swimming? And I said, oh yeah, just, like take your shoes off, roll your pants up or whatever. Those kids jumped in that water. I couldn't believe it. It was about 80 degrees that day. They're in their clothes. They're in the water. They had the time of their life, got out. We had to get back on the bus, but they actually dried out. Like, I was so impressed that they were so comfortable that they wanted to do it. These are the 52 kids up here. We took them around we did a tour of the territory. And one of the things that we did was we went and met with our tribal leadership. So that's in our tribal council of trustees quarters. And so we basically had a meeting with them. They were able to ask our leadership anything they wanted. It was pretty interesting. The questions, the degree of intensity that the questions have is really, really awesome. So up top is a picture of us next to our whale. We're whaling people. So that's a whale breaching. The tail is back a little further. But that's what 52 people looks like. And I wasn't sure. So I made some succotash for the kids. And I was like, I'll make enough for like 50 people, whatever, it'll be fine. They tore it up. I couldn't believe it. We didn't make enough. So I know next time I got to make enough for about 100 kids, and then we'd have enough for everybody. But they really enjoyed the traditional food. This picture down here is Hofstra University. That one, so the red-haired woman that you see there, I met her. We were doing a lactation Zoom. And as we're talking, we really connected. She is a PA advisor at her college. So she works with the physician's assistants, nurses, and their medical program. And she was like, I'd really like to talk to you because we have this new lifestyle medicine that we've developed, and it's so amazing. And, instead of giving people pills, we tell them to go out and walk and get some exercise. Instead of this, we tell them to grow their own food, all these things. And I was like, oh yeah. I was like, yeah, that's what we've been doing for like 10,000 years. So I said, I don't feel like you've invented it, but thanks for catching up. And so she was so impressed with that she said, I need you to come out and talk to our students. So I went out to talk to the students. We did a nature walk on their campus. And so on their campus, in this particular area, I was actually walking through and I was pointing out different things that for us, we consider to be food or medicine. And for them, it was just a bunch of weeds and stuff. But it was really interesting that those kids were also really tied into it. And again, that was about another 50 kids. It's hard to tell from that picture. So then in this picture here, this is Hofstra again. One of my cousins, because I'm not the only one, took a bunch of kids out on a nature walk. And they just walked around this particular area. And she just, pointed out certain things that we know to be sacred to us as either food or medicine. Then in the bottom, and this is them too. They're still in the woods and she's walking through there with them. These two on the bottom, I was on a panel for a movie called Living Soil. And so this gentleman right here, these are all PhDs, right? All these people, farmer, smart folks, PhD, and then, you know, the Indian kid from Shinnecock. And so I was having a little imposter syndrome, like, why am I'm up here with these people, right? And then I immediately felt comfortable. This guy says, we've been here for 17 generations and we've been growing food, and the soil here is very unique to this area. And we know this soil, my family knows this soil better than anyone. And that was my cue. And so when it was time for me to talk, I said, I just want to say that my grandfather, 17 generations ago, taught his grandfather how to use this soil. And my family knows this soil better than anyone else. One of the unique things about Long Island is that we don't have a lot of topsoil. Our topsoil is anywhere from 1/4 of an inch to maybe 6 inches. So how do you grow anything in that, right? Because under that is sand. So I've done quite a few speaking engagements with them since. We talk about how we use different products that we would put into the soil for ourselves would be things like our kelp, seaweed, fish, fish meal, crushed up shell that we would put in. Serves a lot of different purposes. One of them is calcium back into the soil. There's so many different things that we've done from the beginning of time that we continue to do now that, you know, I look at things like this. And when I talk to people about these things, I go, it's really interesting how this guy, and you see how closely he's focused in on me, wants to learn as much as he can from the things that we've been doing since the beginning of time, because this guy works for profit. What he wants to do is grow as much food as he can so he can make as much money as he can to give to his family. And our relationship to the soil is completely different. It comes with the word that we use for soil. So Oki is our word for soil. Okas is our word for mother. So right there, you know, for us, soil and mother go together, Mother Earth. We treat our soil completely different. We use our hands in the soil. We don't put gloves on. We know now that there are nutrients in the soil that if you put your hands in the soil, you get a medicine from that soil. Science shows that. This woman right here was amazing. She's a PhD. She backed up everything that I said on the scientific side. And so it was really good. That was a really good combination that we had, a collaboration that we did with our local community. So we can go ahead and go to our next slide. So that's pretty much the end of my presentation, Tabutne, which is a word that we use for thank you. It means it is enough. Some of our sister tribes might say katapatash for thank you. That would be a more direct translation. But again, there's my contact information. If anybody is interested in contacting me about anything, I'm a GHWIC alumni forever. I hope to constantly work with you guys. Does anybody have any questions before I close out? Sure.
I just want to say thank you for your presentation. I'm from a small Virginia club. We had first contact with people, so I really like the correlation as we tribes. Here in the years and event stages of establishing all these things, I'm a health and wellness coordinator for my job. So I'm a nurse, but in the health and wellness coordinator position, my position is brand new, so I'm trying to come up with all of these things. I just did my first diabetes class last week, actually.
Mm-hmm.
Also preparing for this, so really nerve-wracking. But we just started up our garden. It's our first season with our garden. Like I said, we wanted to kind of recognize 4 years ago, and Virginia is just not very open to the Native community in general. So I was just wondering how you did a couple things. One,
Sure.
how do you distribute your gardening? How do you distribute the produce? Like I said, it's our first season. We're trying to figure it out. I distributed at my diabetes club, but just wondering how y'all do it.
So what we do is every Friday, we'll go through, every Thursday, Friday, we go through our community garden and we harvest everything that's ready. Here's another thing that we do, and I suggest that you do it as well. It's one of those ways to keep data. What we do is we weigh our food. So as we take it out, we weigh it. So we know how much did we produce that particular year. So you take the food out, we weigh it, and then we put out, we have about 3 social media pieces that we use. We use our mail system, which is our email system that goes out to all the tribal members. And then we have a handful of social media pieces on Facebook and all the different social media. And we'll say, out at the community center in the kitchen. So we have our community center where you saw the fitness classes were being held. There's a kitchen that sits off. It's about half the size of this room. And we'll just put the food there. It's first come, first serve. We put the food out. And or if we have elders that we know want a specific thing, we'll ask them. We have an elders council. We'll say, what do you guys want? Who wants what? And you'll have someone want, I just want eggplant, or I just want. So when we get those things that come up, we make sure that those elders are delivered those things.
That was our idea, elders first.
Mhm.
And then from there, we also have a meal delivery service.
Yes.
For elders who were thinking about maybe delivering some of the produce. So, like I said, it's all very.
So we do a little bit of that as well. We have done. So sometimes we have people come out and get it. Elders, we mostly deliver to. And we have a food program where we deliver lunches to our elders. We do get food out that way. We have our preschool. We don't have with COVID, we stopped their food comes in. But prior to COVID, we had a on-staff cooking staff. And they would just pull stuff from the garden. They had 100% access to go in and pull stuff out. So yeah, we use it and share it with the community in every variety that we can. When you saw the plants that we had, the seedlings that we came and they were just kind of on the floor and scattered up on the bench, we put a social media post out, hey, come and get whatever you need. We have, and then we give them a list of what it is, tomatoes and such. What else did you have? Make sure you write down my contact information. Okay, because that's my cell phone and it's okay. You can call me anytime. This is my email. You can email me anytime. And I'd love to help you guys be successful.
How did you get things up and moving after the shutdown? Like we just started up again as far as our travel.
Right.
Mm-hmm. We also are recognized for territory as well. So our community is we have probably 9% travel in our community. 90% of our members are there. So it was the same thing. We were concerned that it's just going to. So how did you all get things up and moving, or did you kind of feel like there's an additional like?
So it's hard. So what we did was we started with Zoom, and everybody's not going to do Zoom. So then weather-wise, we do things outside. So all those fitness classes we were doing them outside. So we'd have to wait until the weather was right. But we did have individuals that would do Zoom. So those individuals were able to maintain. Then through them, we were like, okay, so our next class, we're going to start this, this will be it. Our cases are low. I get the updates on where our cases are for the territory. Cases are low, they're stable. We're going to start outside. And we would just go outside and we would have our full fitness classes outside, bring all the equipment outside, wipe it down, clean your stuff up, and then we put it away. And we did it that way. You have to use what's available at the time. So Mother Nature helped us with the weather, and that's what we use. The other side of that is you have to be careful this time of year. Now it's 80 degrees. Okay, we can't do it outside. It's too hot to be outside jumping around and doing stuff. Yeah. So it's just, you have to play it by ear. You have to do what you're able to do. So focus goes to riding bikes. We could do that. You got the air blowing in you, whatever it is. Think outside of the box constantly. Also, money-wise, think outside of the box, right? So apply for classical dance grants, right? Because you can't get more classical in the United States than traditional dancing from Native Americans. Just constantly keep that mind going. Whatever it is, find a way to tie it in. I've gotten grants from, I got a $3,000 gardening grant from a dental office at USET, because when I applied for this grant, they gave me the wrong number and it went to this guy and he picked it up and he said, wow, you wrote this so well. I want to give you some money. So he did. So I love USET. They're amazing to me. So yeah, constantly think outside the box. And so what he said was, he was like, this is good, but how's it tie into dental work? And I was like, I don't know what this guy's talking about. So I called him and he was like, yeah, I think I picked this up by mistake, but how could you tie this into dental? And then I'll see what I can do. And so I was like, well, apples are great for your teeth. And this is, this particular plant is good for calcium. This is I just went through all these different things. He was like, oh, that's perfect. Cut us a check. What else you got? That's good. Go ahead. Oh, wait, I have another one. I'm gonna come back to you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. I have to step out. You can ask me in all